Hey everyone, I just wanted to share some tips on writing procedures. So we're going to listen to some tips on writing procedures. Then you guys have an activity practicing putting procedures in the right order. And this will all prepare you for tomorrow when I'm going to ask you to write the procedures for your experiment. So first of all, I have to say, as usual, Mrs. Murray's got contractors at our house working right now so that hopefully by this time next week, I am in my basement, in my office, and it's not noisy at all. So they are currently pressure washing the house outside this room and banging on bricks outside because the painters from the basement are also going to paint the exterior. So I apologize if you hear any of that in the background. Also, the one right outside my window is singing very loudly in Spanish. If you hear someone humming a Spanish tune, it's not me. It's just people that are helping us get our house together. So, two procedures. Here we go. So, procedures are the step-by-step instructions for how to do the lab. If you were doing a lab in class, I will probably give you the procedures, but if you are writing the experiment, then you have to write the procedures. And I actually really love giving kids opportunities to write their own procedures. One, I think it's a powerful tool because you need to learn these writing skills. But two, I also think it's powerful because you get to plan the experiment to look like you want, as long as it's following the scientific method. Okay? So, just my slide there. Tip number 1 on writing procedures, use a numbered list. Not a bulleted list, not a paragraph, a numbered list. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? Tip number 2, organize the steps into small, discrete directions. Like, for instance, the directions to wake up in the morning. Let me rephrase that. The directions to getting out of bed could be 1, wake up. 2, put your feet on the floor. 3, stand up. 4, walk out of the room. Okay? Versus the not so great example for how do you get out of bed. 1, get up. 2, walk. Notice how get up is pretty vague. Okay, get up could mean, yep, put your feet on the floor and stand up, like in the good example, or it could mean like that super trendy dance that was going on last year that I have no clue how to do. Like, so get up means what, right? So make sure you're sticking to more of the small, discrete steps. Tip number 3, avoid using pronouns. This is probably my biggest pet peeve when it comes to scientific writing and procedures. You need to avoid it. Okay, it is the biggest offender, and you need to be specific. So I often hear like place it on the table. What is it? Place the beaker on the table. I actually often hear place it on that. Okay, 2 pronouns, extremely vague. Place the beaker on the table. Right along with that, tip number 4, use action verbs. Okay, instead of get 50 milliliters of water, you want an action verb like measure 50 milliliters of water into the graduated cylinder. So not only are you specifying what that action is, measuring, you're saying how much, and you're telling us where you're going to put it. So those are those details that are really important, and those a lot of times get left off, and I'll talk to students, they're like, well, yeah, like I meant to say that. When you're writing your lab report procedures, there is no I meant to say that. You can't assume that anyone knows what you meant to say. You have to write it out, okay? So tip number 5, this is a great one. Place a label diagram of the setup. So even if you are trying your best to explain it clearly, if you have a diagram or a drawing that's labeled, that is a good visual reference for your readers to be able to envision what your words are saying. I do this a lot on my lab sheets when I'm teaching in school. You guys, for this lab, you can draw out your experimental design. I actually want you to draw out your experimental design and then label the picture. Just snap a picture of it with your Chromebook and insert that picture right into your procedure slide. By the way, if you need a second slide for procedures, it's okay. Go ahead and add a second slide. Tip number 6, include all steps no matter how small the step seems. So we'll start with the not so good example. Place beaker on the hot plate. Number 2, record the change in water temperature every 5 minutes. Well, this person missed a major step. And that step is in the good example. 1, place the beaker on the hot plate. 2, turn the hot plate on to medium. Okay? There's no sense in sitting there and looking at the hot plate or recording the temperature change if you haven't turned it on. But the reader may have skipped that because those were written in the directions. Okay? All right, next tip. I'm sorry, we're going to take a little break from tips to look at a good example and a bad example. So, how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, okay? I just found this one online, so I'm using it. because it's quick and easy. So let's start with the non-example on the left. Not enough detail, not explicit, not enough action verbs. Here are these directions. 1, put peanut butter on bread. Put is not an action verb, friends. 2, put jelly on bread. 3, eat. Well, look at this picture here. Peanut butter's on bread, jelly's on bread. I'm not eating that sandwich. I don't know about you guys. So here's a good example there to the right. 1, place 2 slices of bread on a plate. 2, open the jar of peanut butter and use a butter knife to spread 2 tablespoons of peanut butter on 1 slice of bread. 3, open the jar of jelly and use a butter knife to spread 2 tablespoons of jelly on the other slice of bread. 4, put the 2 slices together with the peanut butter and jelly in the middle. And 5, eat. Now, I like the action verbs place, open the jar, okay? They do use put, but in this case, I think it's probably the best verb. There are no pronouns in there. There are no it's or that's, okay? And these are small, discrete steps, but they are specific. They tell us how much peanut butter, they tell us where to put it, okay? Here's another really bad example. Making lemonade. Ingredients, water, lemon, sugar. So think about doing this. 1, squeeze juice out of the lemon. 2, put the lemon juice in a pitcher. I had to sit there and pause and think about this. 3, fill up the pitcher with water. 4, add sugar. 5, stir. So me as a parent, I'm like, stop. I think this experiment has happened in my house before. My daughter loves to make lemonade. I have come in sometimes and there is a puddle of lemonade or lemon juice all over the counter. I think she's probably following these directions, these procedures, because step number 1, squeeze the juice out of the lemons. Where do you want that juice to go? Are you squeezing it into a bowl? Are you squeezing it into the pitcher? How many lemons are you squeezing? Are you squeezing to have a certain amount of lemon juice? Do you need a quarter of a cup? Do you need 2 cups? Put the lemon juice in a pitcher. Okay. Once again, where was it previously? 3, fill the pitcher with water. How much water do you need? Should it be cold water? Should it be hot water? These details are all missing. 4 is my favorite. Add sugar. Well, we all know lemonade is made by the amount of sugar, and it's a very fine line. Okay, not enough sugar? No, thank you. Too much sugar? Again, no, thank you. So how much sugar is needed? And 5, stir. Just give it one little stir. Stir until the sugar's dissolved. Stir for 5 minutes. It needs to be a little bit specific, more specific there on the stirring. So I'm going to provide here an example, some awesome procedures, full of detail. They use small, discrete steps. There are action verbs. There are no pronouns. I'm going to let you read that to yourself. I'll give you guys a minute. I'll take a sip of my afternoon coffee and listen to the contractors outside banging on the brick on my house. So as you read, look at all those details, full of nouns, full of qualitative and quantitative descriptions. Okay, so this is what I want your procedures to look like. Okay, they're clear. Anyone else could pick these up, grab these materials, and complete the investigation and report back the same findings that you found. That's how science works. That's why it's important to write clear procedures and not these types of procedures. Because these findings, someone else might totally interpret these procedures a different way than you, and we could have 2 different types of lemonade at the end. And so your experiment was not replicatable by another scientist, therefore it is invalid. So we are leaning towards these types of procedures here, friends. All right, so 2 other just kind of pointers. I hated to use like tips again, but 2 additional things for you to consider when you're writing your procedures. 1, think about how long your experiment will take. Okay, I'm giving you guys about 2 weeks. We're going to report our findings in about 2 weeks. So if you only have a few weeks to do your experiment, which is all we have, don't write procedures for something that's going to take months to carry out. Consider that. And the second thing, think about your sample size. We generally like to do things like in groups of 3. So you have your control group, and then you're testing 2 other things. Now, they're all the different types of that independent variable. So the easy example I can think of on the top of my mind, like which type of bubble gum loses its flavor the fastest, you would have 3 different types of bubble gum. Okay, so you need a big enough sample size so that you could have like a couple dozen in each your group. That one's talking about if you're doing some type of survey. So if you were surveying that example there, which type of bubble gum loses its flavor the fastest? Do you see where that is a little bit of the opinion of the person you're surveying when that flavor's gone? So if you're doing something like this and you're asking their opinion, I would say you sample around 10 people, a good sample size, but then you still have your three versions of bubble gum. Okay? So you guys are going to go back to the Canvas page. Actually, you're probably watching this in Canvas. You're going to click on the little gray link right beneath this video in Canvas. You're going to open up these Google Slides that look like this here. And you just need to read the scenarios at the top, and then you will click and drag these procedure boxes in order to put these in order. They're not in order right now. Okay, so think about this scenario. And what I liked about this, these were some good, well-written procedures. So I think reading these will help you put them in order. Then it'll help you kind of think about and process the type of procedures you'll need. All right, guys, get ready to write your procedures tomorrow once you finish this activity. See ya.